Ești live, cred.
Hi. Sorry for the inconvenience. It was a technical error. Today we learn about principle and rules. We will do this because from what has been observed in the online environment, the principles are mixed with the rules. As you know, the principle is determining role in this activity without which action cannot be carried out. Concretely, without the principles being respected, we have no worry to carry out the investigative method. The rule norm that oblige the surveillance activity to comply with certain operative conditions, standards, chronology, that outline its principle can be executed. We will start with the principles. The covert surveillance activity can be carried out provided that it fulfills the two fundamental principles. One, the principle of legality. Two, the principle of conspiracy. The principle of legality provides that the investigative activity must comply with the national and international rule regarding the right to carry out such activities. Concretely, the national rules of implementation, such as the private detective law, the constitution, the criminal law, and other, will be respected both inside and outside the country. There are countries that require notification to the police immediately after entering the respective state and another such as measure. The principle of conspiracy. It is another fundamental principle that establish that the activity of covert surveillance is an investigative method that can be carried out in secret. So all activities must be carried out only with the fulfillment of the condition of being related covert surveilling in that environment. Concretely, everything must be conscribed. We, the vehicles, the methods, and all the activity to cover surveillance operation. If the activity partially includes covert elements, then the activity is not called covert operation. Face microfonie, mă. In order to be able to speak of a covert surveillance action, it must meet the legality condition from the start. Otherwise, the action cannot be triggered. We cannot initiate if it is outside the law and if it falls within the law. It must be covered. Rules. Regarding the rules, they represent the operative provision established by the study subject covert surveillance, and there are many of them, each chapter of the manual. Each method has several rules that must be taken into account. These are not primary or secondary. They are all primary and have the same value. Failure to comply with them leads to the impossibility of performing the methods. For example, we will present a rule for each moment of the action to understand that for every methods of cover surveillance are there are many rules to respect. One, for taking over the target, an important rule is that the one who is in sighting plan will give the signal to set it in motion. It's a very important rule, but it's not the first rules for this method. There are many rules. Two, for the moment of the foot surveillance, an important rule is that the number of investigators must be determined according to the crowd of pedestrian complexity of the building in which the store is located or the mall is located in this building, with a staircase, with an escalator, depending of the size. You must know, you must uh, make investigation to determine how many exits are from the building. It's very important to the foot surveillance. For mobile, for mobile surveillance, an important rule is that you cannot carry out the action with a car that does not meet the condition explained in the Gero method surveillance book. The Covert Surveillance book, this is to explain what you must know about covert surveillance in volume 1 and volume 2. And after, you can start the training. When traveling in the countryside, a rule is that we must not wear a very elegant city uh, city elegant city clothes that contrast with the normal dressing in that area. When conducting surveillance on the beach near the ocean, where people sit by the sea, you cannot carry out investigation dressed in long sleeved clothes and long pants with contrast with the environment. In conclusion, we can say that there are two principles and there are many rules, and some are mandatory, such as the one in the first plane will always communicate to another colleague in surveillance. In order to be able to launch a covert operation, we must check if it meets the condition of the law, if it can be done undercover and after the start of the activity, if these conditions are met. Focus on the compliance with the rules. To organize the operation in another state, I can tell you that is a very important and a big responsibility. Judicial activity not difficult to start this activity, but in commercial fields, you must know the law of the country where the operation will be start. It's a very important thing because if the information, when you getting information, you must show to the uh, beneficiary beneficiary the information in the report, in the notes, and if you don't respect the law, you can work on the after the the law, because the this must be respect. I hope you like my video shows about surveillance. You must want another video, another uh, promotional price. We join us on World Organization of Surveillance and Close Protection Operation, because it's a strictly personal group, confidential group, where is our life, our hobby, Covert Surveillance. In this organization, can buy books at a very lowest price. You can see my video, because I will put my video uh, about Covert Surveillance, and only member can access the videos. Uh, can work together. We can uh, coordinate together operation. I am your team leader, and you can give me the the situation of your operation, and I will show and I will help if you consider in field what is do in a complex operation. Number of is open for professionals. Uh, I my colleagues from protection, because I am licensed in covert protection, and they will see a new method to make a covert operation in close protection, not only traditional close protection. It's time for a new method. It's time to a big change. Uh, 2024, we not study enough in covert surveillance. We don't know what is covert surveillance. There are many who tell us that they know, but they don't understand covert surveillance, because they don't have a book to study. They in my country is sentence. They know under years. Uh, this is a real phenomenon. Thank you for you to be with me. I appreciate all like to enroll. I have many enroll and, colleagues uh, from this after the discussion of our activities. Now, I want to give the word to discuss about Covert Surveillance Group to General Secretary of World Organization and Surveillance uh, Cross Protection Professional to discuss about this subject. I want to to tell you that was a problem with the technology, and this is the problem that I don't start at my hour. Please forgive me.
Income. So right now I'm going to give you a sneak peek of the contents of Mr. Juro's books. Um, I'll start just outlining the chapters. So, in book number one, he will be giving you the introduction to surveillance and the legal basis worldwide. So, we're discussing about the legislation pertaining to covert surveillance. Then we move on to the definition of covert surveillance. What is a surveillance specialist? What is an operative? What are the required skills? How do we dress and so on. And then we move on to how to prepare the surveillance action. Um, how do we collect information from open sources, from official sources or personal qualified sources? We'll be discussing all these aspects. And then we investigating the location, the street system where the target is located, um, and then we'll establish how the surveillance operation will commence. Then we move on to the clothing. How are we supposed to get dressed? What are the cons? What are the pros? What are the caveats? What we're not supposed to on us, like mobile phones? And then we'll discuss about the risk assessment in surveillance. Um, then another chapter is about the organization of the surveillance operation itself. What are the mandatory debriefings? How do we set up the posts and the waiting posts? Who has the direct sites, the target, who's waiting where? And then we'll be discussing about the equipment and the technique required for the surveillance operation. What types of cars do we use? How to choose them? How to prepare them for the mission? Then, what are the rules when acquiring the target under surveillance? Then we'll be discussing individually what's foot surveillance, how do we ensure cover during foot surveillance, operational discussions. Then we analyze the action depending on the number of operatives and the logistic basis allows us to maintain the cover. Uh, and we'll be discussing how to do the surveillance with only one investigator or two the investigators or a team of investigators. All the little details will be discussed in depth. For instance, what to do in a crowded station versus an uncrowded station. Um, and from foot surveillance, we move on to mobile surveillance, and then how to place contacts, the contacts, the target. And there are various situations. Then we'll move on to the car surveillance. Yeah, how to make or to build the stakeout team, what to choose between car, scooter, or a motorcycle, when to use each and every one of them. And for instance, what are the disadvantages of using a GPS in operational surveillance? Um, then we'll be discussing about the backup options if the car investigators cannot acquire the target. So what to do. And of course, there are working hypotheses when acquiring the target, how to perform the car surveillance, where to position your car, how to change the planes, because there are, as in mathematics, you have plane one, the first person who's nearest to the target, and then the second plane, and then the third plane, and how these planes alternate in order to ensure the covertness, and how to change them so as not to attract the target's attention. Or, for instance, we'll discuss how to act when the target stops the car. Perhaps you'll be faced with this, or you have been faced with this situation. And then another chapter is about the communication procedures during car surveillance. Yeah, who's coordinating the case and how to act. Then we'll move on to rural surveillance or surveillance performed in the countryside. How to how to establish, how to organize it, what are the rules to be abided by doing rural surveillance. Another chapter is concerned with the surveillance carried out in leisure resorts, for instance, in spas or on the beach. Another chapter concerns the loss of the target. It's very important. So we have to analyze the root cause and the immediate measures to be taken on site to do the surveillance. So what to do? Are you exposed? Have you lost the target? Uh, when? When the target was acquired, during the foot surveillance, during the car surveillance, and so on. Um, in case the operative is exposed, what are the causes? And then more importantly, what are the remedies? Yeah. How to terminate the surveillance action. And then we'll be discussing about the static surveillance. Yeah. What are the principles behind the static surveillance? Then another important chapter is atypical surveillance. Yeah. For instance, we'll be discussing how dormant surveillance or putting surveillance to routine to sleep can be overcome, or about the intimidation surveillance. Then we'll be discussing about the detection of surveillance. Yeah. And then the counter surveillance. What are the methods by which we do the counter surveillance? Maybe the itinerary method, one method. Um, then how do we compensate for the low number of operatives in a surveillance activity? For instance, if we're short of people, how do we compensate for this in order to achieve the desired result? And then, of course, we'll be discussing this is a matter of more of police, the flagrante delicto, yeah, the flagrant, the surveillance action, uh, documentation. How do we do the documentation? Uh, then the book also discusses about judicial surveillance uh, and corporate investigation. This is quite important, and the surveillance carried out by private detectives. And there is a chapter for the challenges in international surveillance. And of course, there is a large number of examples given for each and every individual uh, aspect of surveillance. I think this is about it. I wasn't going to too much detail about the book because I'd like to give you the opportunity to go through the book and analyze it through your own eyes and mind. Uh, Thank you for being with us tonight. If you have any questions, please don't be shy. Write them down uh, on the website, on LinkedIn, and we'll be glad to answer all of them. Uh, Goodbye.